We need to make rational decisions for the world to survive while keeping the economy running. Now, as we move from one crisis to another, there is room for maneuver today, but where is it exactly? And should we take it slow in uncertain times, or rather, do we have no real time to spend to reach a sustainable future? I'm pleased to introduce our international panel of elected representatives from companies and universities. We have two representatives here physically present with me. You already met Otto Pukk. Welcome onto the stage. And we are also joined by Mait Rungi, who started the day, the rector of Estonian Entrepreneurship University of Applied Sciences. We should also be soon joined by our Japanese friend and colleague, Professor Daisuke Matsushima, but I understand he is not yet with us because we are about 10 minutes ahead of time, so we will wait for him. But we have, of course, Graham Dodge with us, so we can begin the panel. I think I'd rather sit here because then I'm closer to you, gentlemen. So, the war in Ukraine has certainly challenged the green transition in Europe. We burn more coal than we did a few years ago, and yet we should be very much in the curve of our green shift towards the green economy. Now, in these turbulent times, do you think we should take it slow with the green transition, and can we actually afford it, Otto?
I think it's inevitable to work with the green transition due to the geopolitical situation we have currently. So perhaps it's a booster in it, but the trend have started much earlier, and we shouldn't forget that this is just now a short frame of time that we have had these troubles, but the fundamentals why we should go for green energy, they have been there for decades, if not even longer. So I think we need to continue to strive towards higher values and more sustainable future. In the end, we have one planet, and we need to take care of it, and that's the essence, I think.
Mait, how do you see it? I mean, in Estonia, we are relying on burning our own shale or like coal, põlevkivi. We haven't done it in such an intensity as of the past year, I think, for quite a long time. So speaking about a green transition is a bit schizophrenic in a way, isn't it?
Okay. Where should I start from? Actually, I think it's not the question or problem of Estonia, because we need to look at perhaps more wider perspective, because the same kind of issues and the challenges face also the rest of the European countries, including Poland and Germany, and they all have to think how they should continue. Because, you know, if we don't want to go back to the traditional oil shale, then what's the alternative? One of the alternatives is the nuclear power plants, but there is also quite a big environmental issues with nuclear power. So actually there is no one good solution for that. I think that the result should be kind of balanced. So a little bit one and a little bit other, because there has to be certainly the multifaceted or plurality of the energetic sources what we are using. But definitely we shouldn't go back and put ourselves fully rely on the oil shale. I don't recommend that, because even if we live in a problematic geopolitical situation, we still have to concern our environment, concern our planet, and if we don't do it, then scientists, they say that it might be too late after a few years.
So hopefully it's just a temporary little fallback to burning fossil fuels in the ovens, and will also in the energy sector will get on with the green transition after this winter. Certainly hope so. Graham, how often do you see that green is merely a sticker that companies put on their products and services without really understanding that you need to change your whole business model, processes, perhaps change your partners? Is this scale of the challenge recognized by the industry? And do you often see greenwashing also in the States?
Yes, and I was going to say, yes, we call it greenwashing as well. And I know the phenomenon of carbon credits has come under a lot of scrutiny recently as well, as that seems to be perpetuating, a behavior of corporations to simply outsource all of that and say, okay, we don't actually have to change, but we'll pay somebody else to plant a bunch of trees. And what the analysis of that behavior is showing is that it's not actually helping at all. So, I think it's an awful, circumstance that we find ourselves in. It's not really allowing for change. It's just capitalizing off of a trend. But I think the real motivation behind this needs to come from the idea of discovering new technology, developing new technologies to extract energy from other sources, other renewable sources, and other sources that may be entirely foreign to us that we might not really even realize could be an energy source that would also be renewable. But we're not going to discover those technologies if we don't actually invest in that research.
Thank you very much. I see Daisuke has joined us from Japan. Good to see you again. Daisuke, could you please describe Japan's position on the Green Industry Initiative, circular economy and innovation? What are the priorities seen from Japan, and how has both the state and the industry reacted to this new shift?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, Japan already, the step by step to improve such green industries after the 1970s. So at the time, we faced the very serious the oil crisis. After that, so actually in Japan, we also lacks of the such the natural resources also. So that's why we try to improve and enhance such a green industry because of our first of all, the energy security on one side, and also that we try to expand the economic scales. So that's why the circular and the recycle business as well as the green. As for the sustainable development innovation, we try to focus on. But the key priority is a new industrialization, so which integrated not only the technology side, but also the business side. So that is very important. For instance, so if you look at the automobile industries, so actually, yes, so Japan already established a very, the strong, the automobile industry, but this is just, the conventional ones. Okay, so unfortunately, we are now shifting to the EV, economic vehicle. So, but unfortunately, not so strong powers compared to the Elon Musk or some another country, the China. So that's why we try to reshape such a startup, such a new industry. But so far, it's a very serious. But at the same time, another sector, especially for the Benioff industries, compared to the artist industries. So that is also very important because of that. We try to focus on such a recycling industries previously. So that's why we also focus on such a things. So that is the transition period for the Japanese industries.
Thank you very much. One of the key questions of this panel is how can universities leverage digital innovation to craft a green future? And how can they support the best? How can they provide the best support to increase green innovation and business growth of companies? So let's talk a bit about the relationship between entrepreneurs, companies, and universities. Otto, how do you see the role of universities today, and how could academia be better included in this shift of knowledge to the real economy?
Oh, that is a great question, of course. I think there's several aspects here that I think cooperation is key. That the cooperation must be mutual, both from the us companies and also from the academia. Then it's hard to answer that question without taking in some country into the example, because the market looks different and in different parts of the world. Estonia is a very small country, and we tend to not have a clear politics when it comes to industry and to innovation and technology and so from our government side. Currently the academia we're not focusing in some specific field. We are broadly putting money everywhere, and with the limited resources like a country that Estonia is, we need to focus. For example, in the industry here, we need perhaps so many as 30 or 40,000 new engineers. So is it then right for the government to secure free education for lawyers or for some culture field or so? Or should the government go in and say that, yes, for a more narrow field, we provide the free education, but then the rest are there, but then you need to finance it somehow yourself. So there needs to be a political will as well in this to function. In some other parts of the world, then cooperation works already for decades good with industry and with companies. So it depends on where you are in the world and what you want to do. You did not like my answer as well.
No, I see Mait is getting excited. So I'm pleased to give you the floor, Mait. What do you think about this idea?
You mean the putting money only for certain areas?
More focus on the areas which the entrepreneurs, and we have an entrepreneur here on the stage, says that we need to focus on this. Yeah, and everyone else pays for their own education.
Yeah, okay. Once again, I think that I should start by emphasizing that we still need to be more balanced. Perhaps it's not good for everyone, but still I think that we need to be more balanced. For instance, if we come to Estonia, and if we think about our local situation, then and even if we come to today's conference, then the first presenter was emphasizing that there is a time span from initiation of a new technology until it fully accepted or it's fully implemented, that one of the key issues in the end was the regulations. So it means that we still need to have lawyers, because I think that there should be even the increase of the lawyers, because such a new aspects coming to our life right now, especially with artificial intelligence and the other issues, how the humans, what kind of issues should be taken as granted and what should be we afraid of, and etc. But coming to my field of the business, what's the entrepreneurship and managerial education, then I still think that there is a lack of these type of specialists as well, especially what concerns the export, because Estonian companies, they face actually quite a lot of huge problems how to enter to the foreign markets, and we especially need this kind of specialists who help Estonian companies to be successful abroad. And another field from a managerial is the innovation, because innovation needs to be also managed. And we need also innovation management, and I can continue this line.
And then you need PR people to sell this to the companies.
Not
you
so
need
much, but
social scientists to explain what the people's actual social needs are and how they can accept innovation. Quite a long list of things I can think of.
Perhaps not so much, but I know that you try to be provocative, and it's a good idea to be provocative. I still think that we need
everyone.
We need some of the PR specialists as well, especially coming back to my previous question asked by you, by the way, that how should we react and live in the situation where the energy prices are going high and there is the global geopolitical situation is not good for us. So what should we do? I think that one part of the issue is also how it is explained to our society.
Mm. Otto, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, no, we need people in Estonia. And I think that is the key. If we want to build companies that are world-class, we need world-class people. And we are 1.3 million people here. And the number that goes into university every year and come out is a fraction of that. And so how can we get more talent here? To I think also is a key issue in this, in that sense.
1/4 of our students, at least in Estonian Entrepreneurship University of Applied Sciences, are the foreign students. So that's our answer to this problem, because if we lack of a certain talents, then we have to bring them in, or we have to specialize. So it's a kind of balance between these two. I'm not saying that they are the end of the continuums, but still, either we focus and bring the rest of the stuff in, rest of the people, or we do it in a balanced way that we are good in. We try to be good in some in every piece of managerial issues what we face.
I'm really happy that we have this dialogue going on in here, but we have two participants online who I'm sure are eager to also participate in the discussion. Graham and Daisuke, do you also face this challenge in the US and in Japan to get more people, more engineers, both into the universities and then out to the labor market? Because as we were told today, Europe is missing, tens of thousands of engineers. So how's the situation in the States? Let's start with you, Graham.
It was 20 million.
20 million, sorry, 20 million, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's no less dire here in the United States as well. And I was at an engineering conference for the American Road and Transportation Builders Association recently, and that's what their main message was to all their stakeholders, is that we're not educating enough civil engineers. And one of the ways that I have thought about that problem would be to look at gaming and how kids, students, younger generations are interacting with games and VR and AR and that sort of thing. What is it that's drawing them to that industry? And I think that if you can kind of spark their creativity in the context of a game like, I don't know, Sim City. I'm dating myself, but I know that there's more modern games than Sim City.
I love that.
Right. Well, you could then take, let's say, a digital twin of a city and then open it up to people interested in that kind of strategic game and let them start to use it as a sandbox to try putting new buildings here, moving buildings around, putting parks here, bridges here. That could be the gateway to helping those students understand, oh, hey, I'm a civil engineer and I didn't even know it. So that could be one way to solve this problem.
Daisuke, what's the situation in Japan? Do you also lack programmers? How many? 20 million missing in Europe. What's the figure in Japan?
Actually, in terms of the IT skill labor, so maybe till the 2030, maybe 0.8 million people we are required, especially for the such a high advanced, the IT skills labor. So, but at the same time, so we also have a very good polytechnic system. So actually, based on this, we try to train the younger generation for the such a new computer science as well as the embedded the industry. So for example, the such software and hard hybrid type of the industry. We also popping up from such a younger generation. That is the strengthness of the Japanese industries. Still exist also. Yes.
So I'm afraid brain drain both to the US and to Japan is quite a realistic scenario from Europe. We can't really expect people coming from either of those countries to Estonia and save us from our lack of programmers. But Mait, the Estonian Employers Confederation recently made a survey among its members, and they found that the biggest obstacle for companies not to engage in research and development is the lack of, again, surprise, surprise, appropriately qualified employees. It was also mentioned that no information about cooperation opportunities with universities has been found. Now, it does seem like there's plenty of room for improvement if we want to discuss this transfer of knowledge from higher education institutions to companies. So where do you see this room for improvement? What are your suggestions on how to really increase cooperation between universities and institutions like the one that you lead and with companies in the economy?
Yeah, we take it company by company because we are fully agree with the results of the survey and your question, because we know that most universities, from the viewpoint of the companies, they are like institutions to provide higher education, but they don't see us as the development partners, as we want us to see. And therefore, we work on a daily basis how to get it better. And there is several governmental level initiatives like Adapter, but it's not working very well.
Why?
So because it's just a platform, and some platforms we mentioned today, many platforms, they may work very, very well, but just the majority of companies, they don't know such a platform. And the key issue of the platform is how many active participants there are. And since we have only very few companies who are actively participating in Adapter platform, that's the reason why they don't find us. And but we have taken quite alternative, and we visit companies and on a daily basis, especially here in Ülemiste city, because that's the kind of hometown of Estonian Entrepreneurship University Applied Sciences, and we try to be active. So we make cold calls. We invite them to be participants conferences like this, and we do different things that they could find us.
Otto, one of the issues or problems which was also mentioned in the survey was a question of mindsets. Mindsets should be synchronized between universities and the business life between entrepreneurs. Have you noticed these kind of, let's say, errors between mindsets of the two sides, which should work together to really foster innovation? And where do you see room for improvement?
I think first of all there is differences also between the different institutions. So the Estonian Entrepreneurship University of Applied Science, I think, is a really good example of a university reaching out, wanting to interact and wanting to cooperate with the business side. But I think it all comes down to what is the offering, the value offering that universities can offer the companies, and in many cases it's the universities take the position that we have these experts, we have the doctorants and the science is going on in these fields, and we don't understand why the companies don't interact. But perhaps the companies don't need those fields. They need the specialization to be on something else. And that's why I come back to it. There must be a political will as well into this. We need to somehow in the society take a stand that what do we want? How do we want, for example, Estonia to look like? Should it be a smart high-tech society? What do we need for resources to achieve that? We need them these and these fields and start working together. Currently, everybody's doing a little bit their own race, and that's the problem.
Graham, do companies know what they need to be serious about innovation? I mean, is it possible for a company to tell a university that, okay, listen, guys, skip that part of your hard science. Focus on that because this is what will drive the economy in 10 years. Or are the scientists actually who know, and should they be left like working in peace in their laboratories and then wait for 10 years, 20 years until they come up with something ingenious that will totally transform the economy? How does it work? How does this partnership between companies and universities work in the States? Because clearly, I mean, seeing your competitive advantage in innovation and technology, you're doing something different than we are in Europe.
Well, certainly you can look at Silicon Valley as evidence of what that academic interdependency can look like between industry and academia. That is sort of, I guess, a gold standard by which other regions can look to historically. Now, of course, there were very specific circumstances that led to that. But I absolutely believe that, you need to have a focus on entrepreneurship, first of all, because if you don't have the startups and the entrepreneurs who are developing new companies, which by and large are probably developing new technologies as well, then you're not going to have anyone telling the academic institutions, hey, we need these technologies, we need this development. When I was CEO of a company I started called Sick Weather, we were trying to do predictive modeling of illness data. We were using social listening from Twitter to understand the trends in influenza, common cold, strep throat, all these things. But we needed to also model those data to predict where and when they would occur in the absence of where we didn't have data, and then in time series, in advance, so that our commercial partners could have some sort of guidance on how to affect their supply chains or their marketing strategies. But a lot of the predictive analysis or modeling that we had to do just didn't really exist yet. So I turned to academic institutions. I said, hey, I need some data scientists who have a basic understanding of these things that we can then train over here to basically become computational epidemiologists, which was a new term at the time. So it's companies like that, and that's just one example, that will have the business use case need or the problem that needs to be solved that academia can certainly help with. And that probably starts off with internships and apprenticeships that can be facilitated between those academic institutions and the entrepreneurs and startups in their region.
Daisuke, bringing the conversation to you, I mean, what are the expectations of Japanese industry, of Japanese companies to the university that you work at? I mean, how do you cooperate? What is the model? Who tells who what they need to focus on, and how can you be useful to each other?
Sure. So actually, as you know, the Japanese company is very good at such a kaizen. It's a continuous innovation. So, but unfortunately, just this. So compared to the such a Japanese companies' activity, so university has a possibility to create a new disruptive innovation or some perspective onto the destructive innovation. But unfortunately, so far there is some distance between the company side and the university side. So that's why in the situation of such a the digital and green type of new industry perspective, so the university side can provide not only the providing the advanced technology, but also I have to say that we the university to become some catalyst for the new industrialization because of the such a the digital industry and the green industry based on the knowledge industry like a bio or the digital IoT or AI. So that's why so we try to provide such a new perspective from outside, and not only that side but also the facilitating the new industry. It seems like umbrella. Umbrella is there is a bone. So we try to expand the bone of the big umbrella, but at the same time we need such a textile. Otherwise, we can't avoid the lane. In the same sense, we try to create such a new industry like such umbrella. So the science, advanced technologies or the very basic science, and also we try to create a new industrialization. That is our perspective. So that in this side we can contribute toward such a new biz academia, the corporations.
Innovation costs. I mean, everyone knows that. Does the green transition inevitably cost more than we are used to pay so far? And if it does, how do we convince all our customers, especially during difficult times like today, that we need to start paying more? Otto.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think that it always needs to cost more. I think it's a very much a question of a mindset as well, and to find solutions. There might even be solutions that are cheaper that are green than those that we are using today. But I think the key comes down to again, how to say, educating the public, and in the end, the end consumers are the ones that are dictating the market. So if everybody would like to have green solutions, then I'm quite sure that those green solutions would be delivered as well and to competitive pricing. So I think it's I don't know if I answered your question, but it's not that black and white that everything needs to be more expensive, and in the end we need to all take a part of it, and it's a mindset.
If it's not more expensive, then it means we're simply wasting resources today that we can put to use. We discussed that before. I mean, electronics, we can use a lot of components. But Mait, what is your take on this? I mean, how do we finance this green revolution? Do we know where we're going, and do we have the right strategies in place?
I think that we don't have a right strategies in place. Definitely we don't. But how to finance it? I think that it's a very, very good question because
Thank you.
Yeah. But I would take one step back and then I would come to your question. I think that continuing to what Otto was saying, that I think that there are two types of innovations. We may have quite a lot of fast innovations which actually doesn't cost quite much and might influence our environment quite significantly. I think that, for instance, if we come to the water treatment or waste management or energy solutions, then we have already quite good solutions available, and we just have to take them into use. And I don't think that they cost quite much in comparison to the today's level. But there are other innovations. What we also have to take, developing new materials and so on, which might be quite expensive, and there might be a lot of failures, as you mentioned, and some companies can afford them, some others they don't. But here we come to the governmental level. Of course, government can lead this by their instruments, what they have, starting from the tax and other issues, some initiatives, some fields, some focusing fields might be taxed less than others, because government have these kind of possibilities to lead the country and businesses either to one direction to another direction, and government can help this. But of course, to sum it up, I think that here we are not alone here in Estonia, because the environmental issues are the global issues, and right now there are quite a lot of funds available. We just have to be good enough to take them into use. And I think that there are plenty of funds available for the country in size of the Estonia. So at least from Estonian perspective, so I don't see the big issue how to fund them. We just have to be good enough that we get these funds, because if we are not good enough, then no one is giving us the money. Mm-hmm. And here I come to our startups again, because they are now quite successful. They are actually one of the best in the world. They can raise money quite a lot, and there is no problem. But of course,
can they make a revolution? That's another question. Because the services that our startups are offering, I don't think too many are focusing on the green transition. They're more offering services, well, which are nice to use, but...
Yeah, you're right.
Graham, the idea in Europe, or the worry that several people have, is that we're suffocating ourselves with our environmental policies. We take too harsh regulations, and in the end, the customers cannot afford it and still somehow manage to find a way around it, and the green transition will just reduce Europe's competitive advantage. Well, not an advantage, but a disadvantage. So anyway, the US and Asia will thrive, but Europe suffocates itself with its regulations. Is that something that you are enjoying from the US perspective, and seeing that, okay, Europe is taking a harsh climate policy, let them do it to themselves. It's a competitive advantage to us. Or how do you see it?
I see it as the opposite, that there's much more innovation that will occur in Europe as a result of those policies, because the governments are trying to do what they're supposed to do, which is protect their people. And if they're not doing their job in that regard, then you're probably not going to see a lot of innovation. So no, I would say it's the opposite perspective, at least from here, from the US. I think many of us envy the policies that are in place there, that are in place to protect your peoples. So, I mean, the way that the cause for that lack of regulation here is because of old business and practices, and that is still influencing politics here. But it's changing. I mean, I think we are catching up in that regard, and unfortunately, somebody has to make money, right, in order for that to influence how things are going to change. And so perhaps, it's people like Elon Musk here in the US that are realizing that and are going to benefit from that, but then that'll actually be a catalyst for change. It's sort of a cynical way of looking at it, I suppose. But I think you do need to have that shift in the industry focus and the priorities of industry in order to get the politicians and the governments to sort of follow suit.
So you think that in Europe we know where we're going and we have the right framework in place to get there if we think about the green transition?
Well, I'm not a European, so I don't want to speak on behalf of other Europeans. I wouldn't be so bold. But yes, it does appear to us here in the US that you have the ability in Europe to make these changes more swiftly than we can in the US. So we do feel like we're behind in terms of the regulatory environment to then facilitate or foster innovation to lead to renewable energy sources and technologies.
Daisuke, one of the approaches that the European Commission has taken is to produce silicon and to produce all those chips more closer to Europe. I mean, they're mostly designed in Europe, right? So why can't we make them in Europe? Does that make Japan worry? Or because, I mean, you can lose some of your business. How do you keep your competitive role in this model?
Yes. So Japan are also very strengthened from such the regulation from the Europe countries. But at the same time, so the Japanese business community also slightly accepting such the very hard type of the environmental regulation because of they try to change their own mind. Because, for example, if you look at the financing facilities, so they have to follow the ESG, environmental and the social governance type of investment is required. Otherwise, it's quite difficult to collecting the money to the reinvestment in the expanding their own business. And at the same time, so the people side also very follow such the very hard regulation because even though in Japan, even though the kids already understood the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goal under the UN, so everybody understands. So very funny situations. That's why in Japan, so we follow. But at the same time, so yes, so there are such strong regulations, especially in the European countries. So that's why we also try to expand such the environmental type of technologies and advanced technologies from the new industrializations. Yes.
Mm. Wonderful. Before we move forward with more questions from my side, may I see if the audience has any questions? Because we have a great panel, of course, and should you be curious or need to do your homework, perhaps with the help of these extremely bright gentlemen here, or simply have questions unanswered, please raise your hand. So I know we have a question. Can we bring the microphone to the gentleman? Go ahead.
So this is more a thought that I've had as you're talking about this in the context of needing more engineers and more software people. If you had asked people in Europe 500 years ago, they would have said they needed more farmers. But we didn't get from there to here by getting more farmers. We did it by making farmers more productive, so we didn't need as many of them. Is there any way of kind of getting forward with IT innovation with the perspective that what we need to do is to figure out how we can kind of reduce the need for so many software engineers by somehow making it more efficient in what they are focusing on or giving them better tools or whatever, just to make them more productive. So we need fewer.
Machine learning, self-programming computers. I think we're still a bit far from that. Any other ideas?
I think I like the idea that why not have programming and I think that is the future as well. But we lack classical skills currently. If you look at very many of the universities have made their education programs popular to the public because they have a competition between between different universities, and the need to attract the students, and the financing of the universities very much looks so that you need to attract as many students as possible. And what we see in the industry is that many of the classic, if you look at the engineers today, a mechanical engineer or electronics engineer, you sacrifice, the universities sacrifice classic natural science like physics and mathematics and so on a higher level, which the students think are boring. And they take in more soft elements like design and familiarizing with different CAD/CAM programs and so. And to be honest, as running or managing technology industries, I can teach a new graduate whatever CAD/CAM program is in use in our factories. I can't teach him basic physics or mathematics, and so I think there is a lack also of there's a devaluation in the educations due to this unhealthy competition between universities that we see. So it's not only a lack of the people, but also the quality is is a declining quality of the educations.
I think that in Estonia we are in a very interesting situation right now. We have a lack of approximately 18,000 of IT specialists, and to fulfill this gap, we need the university's admission should be at least at the level to 2,600 students per each year, but unfortunately we take only 1,600 students, and only 900 students graduate every year. So we have a very lack of ICT specialists coming out from universities every year. But I think that the problem is not at the university level, because this problem must be treated much earlier. It must be treated already at the preschool level or even earlier. When I was young, there were a lot of role models. For instance, in my age, most of my fellow kindergarten mates wanted to be either astronauts or policemen or firemen or something like that.
Now they want to work in a startup company.
Not work in a startup company. We even didn't know what the startup is in these days. But if we could have these role models, kind of a positive image, then I think that young people, they would like to be more ICT specialists or something like that. And coming back to Estonia once again, I think that I even haven't figured out what's the problem is, because we have according to the PISA tests, we have a very good skills in math and physics during the secondary school level. But while they'll graduate the secondary school, then they have lost this ability, and they don't choose these specialities in universities which could help our society, which could produce more engineers and so on. So I think that we still live in a post kind of a cowboy age here in Estonia. So we still like to be, I don't know, to become quickly rich, and therefore we choose certain specialities in universities, but we don't take the long perspective. And but sooner or later we become aware of it, and then I think it's getting better, but I can't give any prediction when it's gonna happen. Whether it's gonna happen either 10 years or within the next 20 years, I don't know.
Isn't that simply human nature, Graham, that we want to take the easy way out?
Well, gosh, the easy way out, I suppose
Not to
so.
study mathematics, physics, and natural sciences, but rather, I don't know, PR.
Well, what comes to mind is the phenomenon I've seen among data scientists writing, AI models, who are using those AI models to make their jobs easier. And at some point, that's going to impact decision making, and to the point where data science, the AI models that they're developing, are going to be providing data to executives, to politicians, whoever else, that they will use to make decisions off of. Data that will have been basically modeled with all the biases therein by AI. So, yeah, I do think inevitably there will be a sort of a consolidation of these trade skills in engineering and data science that will be taken over mostly by AI models. But then the responsibilities of who ultimately, how you work with those models, how you apply those models will still be a human decision, and you create new roles for humans to sort of govern those models and to be like the carpenter who has all these tools now to do what they can with, and what are they going to build next with those tools.
I think when we talk about innovation, especially in transport, there's an elephant in the room because we all like to drive electric cars, right? I mean, I certainly like the quick acceleration and also the good feeling of driving green. That if I'm charging it, well, not in Estonia these days because we're burning fossil fuels to produce electricity, but in theory we could all do that by using wind turbines, and it's beautiful. But the elephant in the room is, of course, battery technology. Now, we had one of our keynote speakers, Andres Sutt, who was super optimistic about battery technology developing to a stage when it's not dirty. We don't need to dig out metals from the ground somewhere in China or somewhere in Africa to develop these batteries. But again, looking how the business models are shifting, and we like to produce, we like to be independent from our friends far away. That would mean we should bring also production of batteries to Europe. Now, are we ready as societies to look into that dirty truth, which is battery technology today? Not being clean at all, and how big of a problem do you see this as a sort of a handbrake on this energy shift that we have embarked on, Otto?
No, I think there is still a lot of challenges for it. One thing is the production, as here was mentioned before, but also the utilization of the usages and how we can recycle this technology. And I don't think it's so we don't see any easy fixes. We still have a lot of development to do there. And I also think that we shouldn't close the door totally to classic combustion engines. They are getting more and more efficient.
But we have closed the door.
Yeah, but I think we should reopen. I know my late father, he was engaged in the Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden with machine design. And I think one of the last student project he ran was a US competition on how far they can take for, if it was 1 liter or 1 gallon, I don't remember now, of petrol for a combustion engine. And on the track, okay, it's not now, it was not working like a normal car, but on the track they basically went coast to coast on 1 liter, like was it 1 gallon or 1 liter? I don't remember now, but with the unit of 1, and so they are getting more and more efficient, that kind of technology as well. So perhaps we shouldn't close the door completely before we have solved the issues with the battery, and so, because you see it, the development is still there as well.
And there are also developments in hydrogen technology. So
Well, hydrogen is the technology of the future, but no one has seen it working yet.
you soon will. You will see.
No, we have seen it working in Star Wars and in Star Trek and everywhere.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot Star Trek. Yeah.
No, the recent
But I think Mait is optimistic about it.
Yeah, the recent developments in hydrogen field is that they can mix it with solid compounds, and therefore it's not so dangerous anymore. And driving the car with hydrogen is going to look like in old days when there were the steam railway. Steam railway, and you just have to shovel the hydrogen and your car is driving.
Well, that sounds very nice in theory, of course, but a more general question: should we also face this inevitable impact of the green transition, which is, and if we talk about also near sourcing components, a dream that Europe has these days? Should we be honest to ourselves and say that, okay, we need to start digging more in Europe, we need to start producing more raw materials, and are we ready for that as a society, or can we somehow escape this future, Mait?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to come back to the previous question and say a few more words about battery technology. In this campus, we have a company named The Skeleton, who is, by the way, have made a lot of improvements and developments in this particular field. And right now they are building a production facility in Germany, and they're going to produce. So I think that this battery technology is going to improve also quite quickly. So in this sense, I'm optimistic in both fuels, what concerns the electricity and what concerns the hydrogen. But coming to your question, then, so please.
So, I mean, yeah, should we also accept that by going to the green future, we first need to look at the not so green present, because I mean, if we want to use the green technology, it's super resource intensive these days, especially in the transport sector right now. But you already answered about the battery technology. You're sure it's gonna go all well. We have a question from the gentleman in the back of the hall.
Yes, maybe I have a little bit provocative question.
I like those.
And remark. We were talking about we need in Europe, in the world, in Estonia, more specialists, more engineers. But do we need it? Do we need more engineers? I'm thinking about one profession. It's medical doctors, the surgeons. They are doing the medical stuff. They are very good mechanical engineers. They are very good IT engineers. They are very good social science people. And of course, they are also know a lot about juridical questions and economical questions. So I understand we don't need more people, but we need to increase the skills of the people, the complex skills and the interdisciplinary skills. What do you think about this?
And who did you want to ask that question? Well, I'm not going to answer it. So maybe
I'm thinking about Estonia, Europe, America, Japan. Yeah, the rest of the world we cannot ask because they are not here.
Go ahead, Graham.
Yeah, well, so with my nonprofit organization, we concern ourselves a lot with technology education meant to upskill the workforce. So we also believe that, yes, you can take someone who's been on one career path for their career and teach them Python, teach them Pandas framework and help them to upskill for a different career or to enable them to be more effective in their current career. So absolutely, I think that education itself is changing. The landscape is changing. How people are learning is changing, and why they are learning is changing. Here in the US, it was always assumed you go to a 4-year college, you get your degree, you go get a job. Well, that didn't work out necessarily for everybody, at least not equally. So the idea of sort of democratizing education in such a way that anyone can learn these skills and change their career path at any given point is something that I think a lot of organizations right now are focused on. And this is especially prevalent in areas like data science and cybersecurity.
Daisuke, would you like to share your ideas with us on this?
Yes. So actually, my university, the College of Transdisciplinary Science. So that is a very significant the meaning. Actually, we can provide such a new type of education for the entrepreneur educations. So because firstly we try to set up such an agenda or the challenge. We find or discover the challenge or some problems, and then we try to backcasting. What kind of the discipline is required. So that's why we try to integrate the transdisciplinary type of, hybrid type of the solution we can provide. So such a procedure is very important, That's why we already practice in my university, such a, the hybrid type of transdisciplinary science. Yes.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you guys, because we do it also on a daily basis. So we mix different specialities, such as the art and ICT, such as business and ICT, and try to bring different fields together. So the interdisciplinarity is definitely the key nowadays. You have to mix different skills from different fields, and that would help us definitely further.
Otto, would you like to comment this also, or?
I think if you look at the motto of the Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden is science and art. And I think that sums it up very much in that sense. Engineering is an art form, and we need to look at it wider. And I totally agree that learning is changing, and people need multiple skills and continue to develop during their lifetime and their careers. And I think that is the key for the future. But we need engineers as well. That I want to point out.
Well, I see the time that we had reserved for the panel has ended. There's a 0 on a red screen behind the audience. You don't see it, you don't have to, but I see it very clearly. But before we wrap up, perhaps, Mait, I could ask you to conclude this panel with your own assessment. Why would you recommend Estonian companies, European companies, companies that are active in the European economy to invest in innovation and to go on this path of green transition where I think we're all heading?
So first of all, I would like to start that investing to university is actually a very good idea, because according to Estonian statistics, if you invest €1, you will get back, or society will get back 4.6 euros. So it's definitely profitable. I don't know what this figure in a field of green, but continuing with the Estonian companies and the Estonian situation, then I think that we have only a few number of companies who do research and development in a companies. So altogether, there are some 300 companies in Estonia who do it, and the total amount of companies here in Estonia is approximately 1,000. So here not 1,000, 100,000 companies, and only 300 are doing some research and development. But I think that they can't continue this way. So they have to start to invest in research and development. And if you are not familiar with this field, then it's especially advisable not to try to establish it inside the company, but buy it from the outside. And one good candidate for that are the universities. So I would recommend to contact with universities to get help, because in this way you don't have to invest to your labors. So you don't have to employ them, because quite often you don't need this kind of support on a regular basis, just perhaps once per year or twice per year. And universities, they have also quite facilities to support research and development, and therefore it's advisable to contact universities in this sense. And altogether, I think that if more companies here in Estonia start to invest R&D, then I think the whole society will prosper in a more and a wider way. And I think that from this cooperation, I think that I see benefits at the companies level, at the universities level, at the country level, at the Europe level, at the whole world level. And the question was concerning, you were concerned also about the green issues. I think that the green issues need also quite a lot of support, because sometimes if a company has new technologies, then the universities can help to bring them to the market. But I see even more benefits from this, that green innovation is not so familiar to the companies, and in this perspective I think that universities are even better partner to contact with.
Thank you very much, Mait. Thank you very much, gentlemen, in this panel. Thank you, audience, for listening and also putting forward some of your questions. An applause to the panel.